Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our webinar on the launch of driveevfleets.org, brought to you by a collaboration between Electrification Coalition and Sourcewell. I am joined today by Electrification Coalition's Executive Director and Mike Dillman, the Associate Director of Cooperative Contracts for Fleets at Sourcewell. Wanted to hand it off to these two guys, and we will get to it shortly after. Ben, Mike?
Great. Well, thanks, Torn. I'll kind of kick it off here and just say that we're very excited to have this sort of version 2.0 and a relaunch of this program that we've been working on for close to a decade. And as a bit of background, the way that we created this program initially was to do it with a collection of mayors. And the point of it was the mayors were making commitments to fleet transition, early stages, and we wanted to use the concept of aggregated purchasing to drive down costs and also to demonstrate demand to auto manufacturers. And some of those are our important partners in the OEM space that include partners that we have in the Electrification Coalition Business Council, like GM, Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, Rivian, Ford, and several others. But one of the interesting things that takes place sometimes, and when you get to develop a partnership with people like Sourcewell who really know the business, is you start to create a solution for different problems. And I think that's what's been really exciting and why we've stuck to this partnership for so long and why we keep looking for ways to expand the work that we get to do together. A big part of what happens when you get into innovation and new product spaces, and especially working with public agencies, is sometimes they have yet to sort of understand and fully develop all the resources to do their own RFP, to think about procurement, right? In the public space, procurement is something that public agencies deal with every single day. And so one of the exciting things that we discovered is we could create this amazing partnership between Sourcewell and the EC, where we act as the technical experts, and we help any entity that might be thinking about electrification and help them understand, is it right for our vehicle space? And so we have a tool called the Drive tool that helps cities do the analysis, and it's the dashboard for rapid vehicle electrification. So it basically makes it so that a city can find out answers really quickly about whether or not they should transition their vehicles. The other part is we help with best practices. We can help through the time and sequencing. So do you start with charging stations? Do you start with vehicles? And then another big part of this, and the part that really Sourcewell brings to the table, but we also do in partnership, is how do we reduce those soft costs? And that's really the secret sort of ingredient in our relationship, is as governments are thinking through this transition and they want to source or procure charging stations, maybe services, they want to think about how do they access the tax credits, because maybe they're not well positioned to do so. And so we've come up with together solutions that fill those needs, but also dramatically reducing the soft costs of procurement. And we actually wrote a report a few years ago that helps show that governments who use stuff like Sourcewell, so in other words, joint procurement or aggregated purchasing and master contracting authority, that they reduce the amount of staff time significantly when they go through procurement. And because it's combined with these technical resources that the Electrification Coalition can provide, it's sort of this secret sauce or special sauce that moves it faster, makes it cheaper. You spend less staff time on it, and you're also going to get access to some of the best vendors out there, some of the best suppliers who, have been through a significant and rigorous validation process. So not only are they meeting the requirements that governments need to spend public money, but they're sort of like the elite of the elite. They've had to go through a rigorous process to be part of a national contract with Sourcewell. And so this partnership has really given us the opportunity to solve some key barriers to transportation electrification. And so if you aren't familiar with the Electrification Coalition, we want to solve those barriers, and we see fleet transition as a key part and a key mechanism to accelerating the adoption of plug-in electric vehicles. And I'll just highlight those, and then I'm going to kick it to Mike in a second. But fleet transition really represents the tip of the spear. So every single vehicle that is purchased and put in operation in a city fleet or any government agency, local government fleet, basically it's a proof point at the ground level, right? So every single one of those vehicles is used every single day in a city, in a county, in a local community. And that is really important to normalize transportation electrification as we're going through this transition. Part two of what's really valuable about this is that every single driver who operates these vehicles in a fleet setting becomes champions of the technology. Because as we've all learned, once you get behind the wheel and once you drive an EV, you never want to go back to an internal combustion engine. And we see that time and time again from fleets across the country and from drivers across the country. And so it's creating the next champions for the technology. And we're in a transition, and you need those advocates on the ground who are talking about the benefits they experience every single day. It's faster, it's quieter, it represents the best of the automotive technology space. It's easy to charge, all those things that maybe you wouldn't know until you have the vehicle in operation yourself. And then I would say the third piece is sometimes we get into the sort of dynamic of why are we even doing transportation electrification? And there's been arguments around climate or other issues. But I think the reality is fleet transition represents the best example of why electrification makes so much sense. Because fleet operators and fleet managers, they know better than anyone about how to reduce costs and how to make sure you meet operational need. And how do you deal with some of those like sort of wrinkles that might exist around access to charging? And what we're seeing on the ground in cities all over the country is that they're making bigger and bigger commitments to electrification, even though we might have question marks that are happening at the federal level around what level of support there might be for transportation electrification moving forward. So this is a really exciting moment where we believe we're bringing expanded solutions to the table and getting to continue this great partnership that we've had with Sourcewell over the years to think about how do we bring EVs to every community across the country and make it faster, cheaper, and easier. So, Mike, we're so glad to have you participate. And maybe just to throw it to you, I'd be interested if you want to share with folks, why did you think this was something that Sourcewell wanted to get into, and maybe even just introducing Sourcewell a little bit further if people aren't.
Sure. Thanks, Ben. I think so. I've been a part of this and with the EC from the beginning. When we started this partnership together, and I think one of the things that we realize on the Sourcewell side of things is, remember our clients, so to speak, are all those public agencies out there. So cities, counties, universities, states. Those are the agencies that are buying off the contracts. They actually came to us and said, what do you have for solutions in the electric world, right? Because we have a sustainability plan or whatever they had. We'd like to introduce one or two vehicles to start out with, and we needed a partner that could provide a lot of the resources to those agencies. And the EC had worked with a lot of our agencies who have accounts with us. You've already been working with them. So it was just a natural partnership right from the beginning, and just to expand it, out to that Drive EV Fleets website. So in Sourcewell, we are a public agency, so we are a .gov. I'm a public employee, right? I'm based in the very warm state of Minnesota. I'm not a state employee, but I'm a public employee. And what we do is, for all of those who are part of the public agencies, is we actually go out with the RFP. Since we are a .gov, we do that on our own. Where sometimes in the cooperative purchasing world, you may have you went out on your own bids, or you utilized a neighboring county to piggyback, so to speak, off those bids. We do it all ourselves. We have our own evaluation team that go through all of our RFPs that we put on the street. We're solution based, we're not spec based. So that's the beauty of it. So if you are a fleet manager, a public works director, a sustainability person, you can actually now work with those suppliers and build the vehicle that you actually want to use. Right? You can utilize the EC for all those resources on the front end on how far do we need this vehicle to go, all those type of things, the drive tool. That's where that partnership really comes in so beneficial to all of us. So that's kind of who we are. We have over 700 different contracts. And what we've really tried to do with the EC for the website was, remember, a lot of our contracts are held at the OEM or manufacturer level. Some are held at the dealer level because we're national. We're in all 50 states. So that's what our contracts that they do. We try to work with our suppliers to train them to reach out to the agencies and sell in the government world. And we have a whole government accounts team that works with the agencies to get them up to speed and their procurement teams on who Sourcewell is, what's the right process to use, what's the best process to use when you're going out to buy something. Because like Ben said, there's a cost to going out for bids. And I always say this through the last, we're not going to go back too far because that was some interesting times, right? But you're going to go off for a procurement for charging stations, electric vehicle. Takes 6 months. What don't you have at the end of 6 months? Your charging station or your vehicle. Then it gets ordered. So hopefully this speeds up the process all the while it's being compliant for you, the agencies. So that kind of is, it's kind of where we started, Ben, I think, and kind of where the partnerships worked really, really well for both of us. Bringing those, we started with those barriers to procurement, right? We keep talking about those and what those agencies kind of went through. One of the things, I'll just tell a quick story. I was out in California, and my assumption was this. It's probably about a year and a half ago. I was talking to some procurement officials, and my assumption was, you got charging stations down pat. You know how to go out and get those, right? Well, maybe, kind of. Like, what? It's California of all places. No, we need your help on those. That was just my assumption. And I shouldn't have made that assumption just because it was California and maybe they were a little ahead of the game sometimes, but it's not. So it's finding that way. We've had states reach out to us and said, have you ever thought about going out with this solution? So we listen to the agencies and do that. So, and we also lean on the EC also, because they talk to a lot of those agencies out there and what their needs are and what they're looking for.
Mike, I think just to sort of come back into the picture for a second, both figuratively and literally, by the way this system works, I think, we started this off and we were really just focused on light duty vehicles, so passenger cars. And then, and I think we started with cars, and then we recognized the need to do this for charging stations. And what's really great about this, and you brought it up sort of as the California example, why do people need help? I think sometimes they need help because maybe you're in a local community where your local dealerships don't have as much inventory. They don't have access to that inventory. It might be that a vendor or a supplier is not actually operating in that community, and so they wouldn't even have a relationship to have with them. And so one of the things that we've always said is like, great, use local people if you want to use local people. But this is a mechanism that you can actually access suppliers, vendors, et cetera, that you might not have access to locally. And you get to combine it with the support that the EC is bringing, which is that technical engagement, right? So should I be getting a charger that is networked, right? And we're able to help think through that and what kind of payment systems work. We actually recently have started working much more directly with one of the providers for you all, WEX, right? And WEX, most local governments would know, help think through how do you pay for fueling. And so this is another example where each of these entities are getting electrified along the way. And so they not only act as somebody who's on this joint procurement, but then they also get connected to us as the expertise to think through how do you do this faster, do it better. And I'm going to keep saying some things as a broken record, but do it faster, do it better, do it cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you seeing in the space in terms of the growth around transportation electrification, either from the number of suppliers that are getting engaged, and or maybe the number of governments that are coming to you all and going, hey, this is something we're trying to figure out and we need to move fast. We need some help and engagement here.
Sure. We see quite a few agencies reach out to Sourcewell, right? We need help. We're looking for a level 2 charger. We're looking for a electric vehicle to do this, right? We're looking for a larger electric, medium duty possibly to do this. So we see quite a bit of that, and that has not really stopped. It's in today's environment, it's still out there. There's still those agencies that are looking, to add or to electrify their fleet, so to speak, right? We see quite a bit of that as we go forward. We once again, we see them also reach out saying, hey, we need this. This is our issue that we have. Can Sourcewell help solve that issue? Not being the end all, meaning a supplier out there is going to be the one that's going to help them, but maybe it's a category we never even thought of. So I'll give you an example, Ben. We went out for fleet management, right? So you think certain suppliers that do fleet management, they come in, they may do service on the vehicle, they may lease you the vehicle, those type of things. We went out for it, didn't really have a robust response with those that focused on the electric side. So we went out for fleet management for just electric, and we got a very robust group of suppliers. That is their sole focus.
Yeah.
So they also help. Part of that is consulting and a little bit of everything there, but it also gives them the end solution also, and that helped out quite a bit. So just kind of, it's still very robust that we're seeing from the agencies. You know, it may not be the same number of vehicles, but there's still if we just focus on vehicles and charging infrastructure, it's still out there.
With when you get to I'm somebody on this webinar right now and I'm listening in and I'm like, well, yeah, but we don't really do joint procurement and we don't work with Sourcewell and I don't think it'll meet my needs. Like, how do you answer that question? Because I think that probably comes up a lot for a lot of folks who've never used you all.
Yeah, and it may be, if you're fleet managers, if you're the public work directors, if you're the sustainability people at those agencies, it may be that your agency already utilizes Sourcewell, but you may not know. We can help you with that. We have a whole government accounts team that can help you with it. You can reach out to myself, point you in the right direction. You may have utilized Sourcewell already. You may not have utilized Sourcewell. We can give you all the information so you can make that decision. We always will leave the decision up to you. In the end, your procurement teams are going to make that decision if they can or cannot use a cooperative purchasing mechanism to go out and procure, right? We all know that. You're still going to go for bids. We know that. If you go to your procurement offices, folks, there's still stacks of bids all over, right? They're going to keep doing that. But what this does is, if you need something, this helps them out through that process. So I think there's that. We also have, you can go right out to our website. You can register for an account. We can take a look with you to see if somebody from your agency has purchased in the past. And like I said, it may not be anything with fleet, but it may have been papers and pencils. That opens the door for you because your procurement team knows about Sourcewell. They vetted a Sourcewell contract already. So that's kind of the first steps. If you're like, who in the heck is Sourcewell? I don't have a clue who they are, right? We can help you with that. Go through that
Great.
process.
Great. Well, I know we're supposed to wrap this piece up in a second here, so maybe just to do my own end, and I think you and Torrin are going to talk a little bit more about some of the pieces. As the executive director of the Electrification Coalition, we work at we work at the local, state, and federal level, and we're working on policy and implementation. And so all of it is centered around the idea of how do we electrify our transportation system faster. And it's, a lot of people have said it's because of climate issues or whatever. In our case, it's about the idea that oil dependency for our transportation sector puts us at great economic and national security risk. And that is more true than ever. And so one of the things that I think is really exciting as if you're on here and you're a fleet operator or local government, is to go to recognize that when you transition to electric, you're plugging into a domestic grid, right? So we can, and the vehicle doesn't care how the electrons are produced, right? Lots of people want to do it with all kinds of alternative resources, but at the end of the day, by capturing that domestic power generation, it takes away one of those key challenges that can exist with oil's monopoly on transportation. The other part is there's actually incredible management tools that come with these vehicles and with the charging infrastructure that can actually optimize your fleets. And so it provides a benefit around optimizing the way that your fleet operates. And when I talked about domestic power, not only is it something where it removes that national security piece, but also it's this economic issue. And so oil's an international commodity. Price fluctuates constantly, right? Energy in the form of electricity has been much more static over time and will continue to do so. And there's an interesting part. You might go, well, but if we're plugging in all these EVs, isn't that going to make electricity cost more? And the reality is actually it does the opposite. It puts downward pressure on rates, and it's going to make electricity cheaper for everyone because it maximizes the electric grid system, right? EVs are mostly charging at night when there's the greatest amount of spare capacity. And so every single wire, transformer, and part of the distribution system is being more utilized, right? So it's creating a more efficient system that meets this need. And so it's really something where by doing this transition, you're not only doing something that can be important for your local air quality and for the environment, but you're also helping your city or your community or your local government become more resilient and less dependent on oil as our fuel. So really excited for this partnership. Glad that we have this next step to relaunch the Drive EV fleets and really offer sort of resources that can help, whether you're electrifying your buses, you're putting out local charging, you're putting vehicles into your fleet, or you're thinking about new management or fleet support on that front. So services, and that includes even like school buses, where now you can actually go through somebody like Highland Electric and get school buses as a service. And those are really important value benefits that demonstrate the sort of full complement of what's available through Drive EV fleets. So thanks, Torin. Thanks, Mike. And I'll kick it back to you, Torin, so that you can talk a little bit more about some of the next things that are on the site.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben.
Much appreciated. Great intro. And stepping right into our presentation. Again, my name is Torrin Spencer. I'm a program manager with Electrification Coalition, based in Orlando, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Mike Doman in Minnesota. But we are launching driveevfleets.org. This is a relaunch from when we were working with the Climate Majors EV Purchasing Collaborative a few years ago. But now this site is open to all public entities, public fleets looking for electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. A little bit about the EC. Ben went into it really well, but we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and we work through a bunch of different efforts, including policy development, advocacy campaigns, consumer education, just like this, fleet and freight electrification, cultivation of bipartisan support, charging infrastructure planning, the lot, in all sorts of different ways, state EV policy accelerator, electric freight consortium, EC Business Council, electric vehicle adoption leadership. We work in a lot of different capacities to electrify the way we move in a lot of different areas. We do have a pretty strong presence in the Midwest and the Southeast. Our offices are located in Washington, D.C., but we have staff here, there, and everywhere. Ben is in the Carolinas. I'm here in Florida. We've got folks in Ohio and all the way out to California. But we have a number of priority states we work with on a number of different projects, working with them closely on their efforts. We have a number of state fleet electrification cohort states where we bring multiple entities together to groupthink through how we fix the issues around electrifying different fleets in different capacities. And we have a number of cities with key EC programs, including the US Virgin Islands. So pretty widespread impact there. Ben was saying earlier, we have a strong case for electrification. Oil prices can fluctuate quite a bit. It's up and down fairly constantly, and we have very little control over how that pans out. But for national security and a number of other reasons, electric mobility is the best scale alternative for reducing that oil monopoly. This graph here shows the relative stability of electricity prices going from the 90s into the late 2010s. Those prices rarely fluctuate, and if they do, it's a few cents here, a few cents there. It's a much more straightforward way to supply energy to domestic users. In addition to electrification and electricity being cost effective, the electric vehicles that run on that electricity are often ideal replacements for internal combustion engine vehicles. They're lower fuel and maintenance costs. There's significantly fewer moving parts in an electric vehicle. It's usually the electric motors themselves, the wheels and the bearings that move, as opposed to all the different pistons and things that need constant maintenance, oil changes, all sorts of different stuff like that. They're well suited for fixed local routes. Most electric vehicles nowadays have a range of 250 miles or more, and that is well over what most vehicles will be doing in a single day. If you do have overnight charging in a dedicated depot, that can definitely simplify operations, charging it overnight and using it during the day, or vice versa for different types of vehicles, charging them during the day and then using them at night, and using those chargers at those depots for two different vehicles, two different times a day, but having to have your uh, expected infrastructure costs. Also, for the case for electric vehicles, new makes and models are available for specialized applications all the time. There's a lot of new light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty vehicles coming out that are based on traditional vehicles, but can constantly be changed and altered to fit different use cases. This example here in this photo can be turned into a trash truck or a dumpster grabber. All sorts of different things can be adjusted to make EVs fit in all sorts of different use cases. But wanted to give everybody information on our new site, driveevfleets.org. It helps accelerate the electrification of public fleets across the country, all 50 states, by reducing costs and barriers. This site is designed for everyone and increases procurement choice, including through innovative leasing options. So you can purchase vehicles for multiple years on end, or you can lease vehicles and have those vehicles for a few years, turn them over at the end of their useful life for your fleet, and then move on to another new vehicle without having to worry about too much about the maintenance over time. This site also reduces administrative time, super helpful for different cities that may not have as much staff as they want for procurement purposes. There's a lot of different teams that have to be involved in approving vehicle purchases, so it reduces that administrative time for all those different teams involved. Aggregates national demand to lower costs, so everybody's working together to get that one low price. Helps with pre and post development planning and training, and it offers cooperative purchasing bundling for EV charging stations as well that those EVs need. DriveEVFleets.org also supplies users with customized technical support. So, not just access to vehicles and charging, but there are a lot of other useful tips, tricks, and support available on the website. There are connections to leading fleets, vendors, and participating agencies. There is parity of vehicle offerings and technical support across the states. Access to best practices, a number of case studies from cities that have participated with this program prior, and looking for more case studies all the time. So if you represent a municipality that is thinking about electrifying or is in the process of electrifying and have good tips and tricks and kind of a history of how your process has gone, would love to get in touch with you to create a new case study, a new updated one for those other fleets that are looking to do the same. And driveevfleets.org also has a link for analysis of current fleet with replacement vehicle recommendations. And that leads me to the Drive tool. The Drive tool mentioned by Ben a little bit earlier is the dashboard for rapid vehicle electrification. It's a user-friendly cost of ownership tool, or TCO tool, for on-road fleet analysis with updated market data. This tool is Excel-based. It's fairly easy to use, and it only needs three primary data inputs. It needs the VIN numbers for your fleets. It needs the annual miles traveled per vehicle. And then it also needs the vehicle service life, the useful life that a fleet would be keeping a vehicle on hand in their fleet. It can spit out a number of different parity options between your current gas-powered cars and your EVs. It can break it down by different types of costs, whether it be the vehicle, the fueling, maintenance, insurance, etc. And it can also spit out top vehicles to procure. It's very easy to use and very easy to share information with your wider teams, because we know it's not just one team that does the purchasing of the vehicles. There's a number of folks that have to be involved. And it can come out after version 2.0 with a number of different key indicators that can be shared. It can be broken down by vehicles with the most savings, top vehicles to procure, and you can also adjust all sorts of different inputs into the dashboard. So you can actually put in more specifics to get out more specific output about what it would look like for your fleet, whether that be charging costs, fueling costs, insurance, what have you. You can add that information to the Drive tool to get even more specific information for you. The Drive tool has been in action for a number of years now, but utilizations and outcomes from the Drive report paired with EC's technical assistance. We've had case studies from Charlotte, Des Moines, and others. Transportation electrification roadmaps have been built for the U.S. Virgin Islands, the District of Columbia, and others. They have affected and assisted with near-term EV purchase decisions, federal funding applications, and vehicle end-of-life internal evaluations as well. It's a super helpful tool to help electrify fleets in the States. Another tool that's available on driveevfleets.org is EC's EV Funding Finder. It's a user-friendly tool to help identify federal transportation electrification funding opportunities, and it allows users to designate what type of organization they represent and what projects they're attempting to fund for output specific results to their use case. So you can show that you're representing a school, a business, a municipality, what have you, and then it can actually spit out specific things that are relative to your organization and not necessarily relevant to an organization that doesn't have anything to do with you. It lowers barriers to entry and identifying, accessing federal funding opportunities for transportation electrification. It can show how funding opportunities can be combined with alternative routes that can be utilized to fund projects. It's not always 100% clear which grants or funding opportunities can be combined or stackable, but the funding finder assists with that process as well. And it provides case studies that showcase potential use of funds as well. Drive EV Fleets also has public safety vehicle resources. Electrification of public safety vehicles across the country is becoming a lot more prevalent as cities and municipalities seek to fully electrify their fleets. There are a lot of options available today, and the electric police vehicles, paratransit vehicles, and fire trucks are showing up with optimal functionality. We have a number of case studies on the website from NYPD, different organizations in Indiana, Ohio, Fremont Police Department, and also in Madison, Wisconsin, where they're moving towards electric fire engines as well. So not just your typical light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty vehicles that we'll get to, but there are options for public safety vehicles too. Still more other tools and resources available from us and other partners available on driveevfleets.org is the Alternative Fuel Data Center, Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Project Tool, fueleconomy.gov's Electric Vehicle Comparison Tool, Mobility Learning Center, EV Charging Guide, Electrification in Rural Communities, and then Sourcewell's Public Fleet Electrification Guide too. So tons of resources on that site, and also other resources on sister sites as well. EV Port is another website that's launched in between Electrification Coalition and Sourcewell. It's a collaborative for purchasing portal for electric vehicles and equipment at ports. That includes medium, heavy-duty vehicles, forklifts, utility vehicles, and charging infrastructure vendors as well for those different locations. There's more Sourcewell contracts to come on that. For more information, check out evport.org as well. But driveevfleets.org has a wide range of vehicle options and resources to help fleet managers make informed procurement decisions. You can browse all the available options between light duty, EVs, school buses, sweepers, and more. You can compare vehicles side by side, check out the contracts, you can access EV procurement and policy resources and EV FAQs as well. And now that we've gone through all the resources, we can finally get to some of the different vehicle offerings that are available on Drive EV Fleets. It's a number of them, starting with light duty options. We have options that are plug-in hybrids as well as battery electric vehicles. Battery electric vehicles being the ones that are driven completely off batteries, don't have any combustion engine in them as well. Plug-in hybrids do have a ICE engine, usually up front, with a battery backup. Can run the vehicle off of the battery itself, can be plugged into the wall. But if the juice ever goes out on a battery, it can be backed up by a gas engine as a range extender or another option. It's different from a standard hybrid electric engine where the gas engine and the battery work together. So we'll continue to encourage those fleets to move towards BEVs and PHEVs in a lot of different capacities. A number of these vehicles are super useful for a lot of different use cases. A lot of room on the inside can be helpful with police forces, fleet forces, um, all sorts of different applications, and plenty of room in those light duty vehicles, and more contracts to come as well. There's a lot of medium and heavy duty options as well. It's a pretty long list. There are a number of sweeper options, so street sweepers that are electrified, or the equipment on the back is electrified as well, from MB companies, Elgin Sweeper, Boucher, and more. Refuse haulers, so electrified trash trucks from Hale Environment, Labrie Environmental Group, and McNeilus Truck. We've actually had a couple questions come in to Electrification Coalition and Sourcewell from different public entities and cities looking for new information on refuse haulers and some success stories about their use. So more information to come from that, but quick shout out to City of Boston to move in that direction. There's information on electric school buses from IC Bus, Thomas Built Bus, and Bluebird as well. Original or OEMs for trucks that make EV options include International, Mack, Daimler, Kenworth, Peterbilt, and more. And also have dealer groups incorporated as well at National Auto Fleet Group, NCL Government Capital, Rush Trucks, Electric Vehicle Choice, and others. In addition to the vehicles, you need options for charging infrastructure, both level 1, level 2, and possibly DC fast. But those different options come from a number of charging manufacturers, including but not limited to Blink, ChargePoint, Nuvve, Siemens, Linkwell, Flow, and Wave. And there's also a pretty handy chart on the website as well that show what is available from each of these suppliers, whether or not their full catalog is available, how much the discount might be on some of their EVSE. All of them are networked, so they're all working together. They're all using the internet to supply information and share that. Makes it a lot easier for fleet management. There's a lot of level 2 hardware available from most, and DCFC available from all. Level 2 can charge a vehicle in a few hours, is where DCFC can charge a vehicle from about 10% to 80% in about 30 minutes. Not always completely necessary for fleet applications. Level 2 is always a great place to start. But if there is bandwidth and capacity to put in DCFC and you find a need for it, there's those options available as well. Installation and maintenance is also included by most, so very helpful with keeping that EVSE up and running, and more options to come in the future. Fleet management is also available on driveevfleets.org. Vehicle management comes from Enterprise and DM Leasing, and electrification planning and transition management comes from ICF Resources, INF Associates, Positive Energy, PA Consulting, a number of other partners listed down the way that provides, but does not exclude a number of these options. So it can help with open-ended leases, maintenance management programs, managed fuel card programs for different drivers, commercial vehicle leasing, telematics, seeing where the vehicles go, how long they move, what speeds they move at, vehicle performance data reporting, vehicle tracking tech, and driver safety programs, and more. But that was a lot of information about the vehicles, about the EVSE, all the different resources and things that are offered on the website. That's the front-facing stuff, but luckily we have Mike from Sourcewell that can give us a pretty good idea of what it looks like on the Sourcewell side as well for procurement. So I'll hand it over to Mike to talk a little bit about what it looks like on your day-to-day, Mike.
Sure. So all great information, Torin, and I think that's where the partnership really was so beneficial, right? The resources that the EC provides, right? Kind of the feet on the street, so to speak, out there working with the agencies and suppliers for that matter. And then you have really the Sourcewell side of things. So I'm just going to take a step back and talk a little bit about how those contracts, those suppliers that Torin just mentioned, how they actually make the Drive EV Fleets website. So remember, we are a .gov. So for those of you who are agencies, I always say process and compliance. Those are two things you hear a lot in your world, right? Especially from your procurement teams. Welcome to government. That's what you have to go through when you want to procure something or purchase something, right? So all of those contracts that are out on the Drive EV Fleets website, those have been awarded through Sourcewell. And that process, once again, is Sourcewell puts out an RFP for a category. It may be class, I'm going to take one that just was recently awarded, class 4 through 8 chassis. Pretty broad. There's no specs there. We aren't actually asking for anything saying we want only class 5 electric. We want everything they have, including electric. That's the beauty of it. So it's solution based. We did break that one down a little bit for those who only play in the electric offering world. They might have less solutions, right? 5 models versus a Ford who has 30 different models of vehicles. So we did break that one down a little bit. We heard back from some of the suppliers and the agencies in that. So that just kind of gives you an idea. EV charging infrastructure, that actually is being evaluated right now as we speak by our procurement team. We went out for that again. We're not just calling for level 2 chargers, right? We want everything you have. If it's a solar charger, if it's a mobile charger, anything you have. Once that hits the streets for a specific time, it goes over to our evaluation team. They evaluate and they award a supplier or suppliers in that category. They're assigned somebody like me. We work with the suppliers to help them sell off their contract and how those agencies would utilize their contract. That's typically how we go forward. So that just kind of gives you the back end a little bit, kind of going through that. So now we take a look at the website itself. Kind of what are the best practices? Hey, Mike, I get it. I don't know what vehicle I want to buy, right? There's where you would work with the ECs so they can look at range, what type of vehicles are out there. If you actually know the vehicle you're going to buy, then you can reach out to those suppliers who are on the website and reach out to them directly. They're going to be able to give you all the information, specs, how far it will drive, what it can do, different options, or you can put different options if they're available on those vehicles, on that charging infrastructure, right? You might look at the fleet electrification management to say, we just don't know how to go about doing this. Mike, how do we get started? Reach out to the suppliers direct. They are the experts on their products. When it gets to it, and possibly your procurement teams have questions on the contract, that will be Sourcewell side of things. We will help you there. Another question that probably will come up, trust me, I can pre-think these out, right? As we go forward is, Mike, we can go and take a look at it. We don't know what the pricing is. Well, you can go get a quote from any of those suppliers who are out there. Once you have that quote, we also have the pricing files at Sourcewell to verify that you've received the correct discount. So that's the kind of partnership we have with our suppliers also. So I just wanted to kind of go on the back end and how to utilize that site. We get a lot of questions that they'll reach directly out to me. Mike, I need a level 2 charger. Can you please give me a quote? I will send back you to all those that Torrin mentioned that have level 2 chargers, saying you need to pick the right supplier for you and reach out to them and receive some quotes from that supplier. That's the best practice kind of going forward. Now, I do know there's some suppliers also on this webinar also. And I do get questions on how can we get added to the Drive EV website. It would be really easy to add you, but those agencies could not buy from you because you've not went through that compliant process. Remember, government compliance process. All of those contracts have been our Sourcewell awarded contracts on there. In that case, you could always reach out to me. I would send you over to our category development team. We have a category development team. They work with suppliers on kind of what RFPs, what categories they would best fit in as we go forward. So that's kind of the behind the scenes. Also, one of the things too, when it comes to, you think school buses, electric school buses, I'm not going to say probably, it is more expensive than a traditional school bus. Anything medium duty, as you start getting into those, there's cost to that. We also can help you through awarded suppliers on that financing portion, right? It can maybe one of our fleet management contracts, or it can be through like a NCL Government Capital, who work with a lot of those agencies to procure their equipment. It may be that your capital budget doesn't have enough money to buy that school bus this year, or that medium-sized sweeper, or whatever you want to buy, right? I'm trying to think of more expensive things. You could finance that for 2 or 3 years, right? So you can free up some money in your capital budget to actually purchase that. So there are a lot of solutions. We went through a ton of stuff. We hope you ask questions. We hope you reach out. Also, I think I could speak for Tori on that also, but I just wanted to kind of give you the process and kind of behind the scenes, what that looks like.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. That actually covered quite a couple questions that were in the chat for Q&A. So we do have some time to go over a couple of those. A couple of them we got in early. We're talking about a couple more straightforward things, maybe not uh, in the weeds questions, but where can we get training on maintaining electric vehicles? Training on maintaining electric vehicles can often be available through the original manufacturer. So after you get those vehicles, you can work with them, but Sourcewell can work through those contacts at vehicle OEMs to arrange local training through dealership networks. Unfortunately, EVs require significantly less maintenance compared to ICE vehicles, so they need less out of service time. So another benefit to moving to EV versus a gas-powered car. Another question we got are organizations and entities other than cities, for example, transit agencies not run by a municipality, also eligible to participate in the process. Yes, Sourcewell is open to all public agencies. Sourcewell has recently partnered with Second Nature to accelerate EV deployment at colleges, universities around the country for a number of other organizations as well. So it's open to every public entity.
Yep, and that's a really good point. Sometimes you think cities, counties, right? Universities. Also think special districts, fire districts, electric districts if they're public, so to speak. So all of those can take advantage of the Sourcewell contracts.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Another question we got, how do we train our staff to use the vehicles? It's pretty helpful to train staff on the use of EVs, as there's generally a slight learning curve. Some cities and municipalities have found that it's useful to introduce EVs to employees and partners gradually through ride and drive events, or just getting backsides and seats. But different events allow staff to try EVs, and once staff have tried them, they find that EVs offer a solid driving experience. Staff can be trained on the range of EVs, faster acceleration, regen braking, and charging. Everything needs a little bit of practice, but we at the EC have and can provide instructional resources to assist in this training process as well. Mike, one we got in the chat was pretty good, directed at you. Could you speak to the frequency and cycle of your RFPs? We have a participant who works largely with school districts seeking EV school buses across the Midwest, including in Minnesota.
Sure. So one of the things I just want to start with is, remember, we're a national, and in Canada also. So if there's any Canadian people, a lot of our contracts will work in Canada with kind of we call it our sister association, Canoe Procurement. Just want to bring that up. A lot of our contracts are awarded at the OEM manufacturer level, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think maybe Ben did, Torin. He talked about it and said, you want to buy local sometimes. You want to work with your local dealers. A lot of our OEM manufacturers, since they're awarded at that level, they roll it out to their dealer networks, their distribution networks, their reseller networks, if they so choose, right? That's up to them. We also do have there's still some, think light duty vehicles up to that light truck. The OEMs haven't really responded yet there, so dealers do hold those contracts. So most everything that will go through that contract would go through that dealer. Just kind of explaining that in a whole also. Our RFPs go out, they're awarded. That contract is typically good. When I say typically, because you can always change these, for 4 years. And that's at the request of the agencies. The agencies like to buy off a contract for an extended period of time, because they might not be buying everything for that first year, right? It's great. I can keep buying off those. I can keep upgrading my charging infrastructure over those 4 years of the contract. Our newer contracts do have like an option of a couple plus ones on there. That's usually at the request of states, certain agencies like that. But our typical RFP is good for 4 years. Some time period before that, our category development team is reaching out to suppliers, and then our procurement posts the RFP and we move forward on that. So that kind of gives you an idea. Just think 4 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Another question I think I might have the answer to, but happy to get some more background from you. Um, we had a question: does Sourcewell have access to upfit uh, e-shuttle buses? Work a lot with medium, heavy-duty electric school buses, but is an upfit for a shuttle bus something Sourcewell can assist with?
Yeah, that's we get that question a lot of fits. It's one area that we keep pondering on what we're going to do with those upfits. If you buy a new shuttle bus, you are able through most of our contracts to upfit it how you see fit, right? So let's just say you want to make it wheelchair accessible, right? For instance, on that shuttle bus, you're able to do that when you buy the new vehicle. If you have a shuttle bus already in your fleet and now you want to upfit it to electric or whatnot, that's going to be a little harder for us. We really don't have a lot of options there. If you buy the actual vehicle and you want to upfit it, let's a transit or something like that, and make it electric, that's doable under our contracts. We don't hold really those standalone upfit contracts. As you just think refuse trucks, we sell a refuse truck, right? That can be considered an upfit, but it's a turnkey. It's also a turnkey solution. So it's a little bit harder to answer that one because we don't kind of wade into those upfits. Because if we remember, we're national, and if you think about it, we would have thousands and thousands of responses on our upfits. And we're really not in the business of going out for each niche thing that's out there. We want those solution based. Remember that class 4 through 8? If you just have 5 and 6, you're good in there and give us your offerings, but we don't go out for some of that niche stuff. So if you got questions on that, just feel free to reach out to me, but it gets a little bit harder. Once again, you're buying a vehicle, you can upfit it how you choose. If you already have the vehicle and now you want to upfit it, it's a little harder through a Sourcewell contract.
For sure. I've got one here that I think I can take, but happy to have you jump in, Mike, if you have more information on it as well. Viewer hears that there's a lot of states that are interested in real world data on savings from peers that have switched to EVs. Is that something Drive EV Fleets has? In case studies, it does have some examples on how other municipalities have moved to EVs and how it works for them. We are still working on getting more data. The more we use the Drive tool, the more we can use it to share with other municipalities how it's working, how those different analyses have panned out. Obviously, analysis and real world effect are a little different. But always happy to create a new case study for anybody who's working with it to share more information with other municipalities. Mike, anything on that one before the next one?
No, I think you guys would be the ones to handle that on that side, because you guys have a lot of that conversation, with those agencies.
For sure. Definitely one for you, though. How does this process work if governments have mandatory fleet contracts that all fleet managers have to purchase from? Can Sourcewell contracts be added to central procurement contracts that fleet managers can purchase from?
Well, if you're mandated to buy through a certain contract, that's probably going to be the contract that you have to go through. So I'm going to give you an example. There are state contracts out there, right? You've all probably heard of a state contract. That's another choice besides a Sourcewell contract, right? Sometimes state agencies have to buy through their state contract. Sometimes they can buy through Sourcewell, right? So we have all of those differences out there. If you're mandated off of a certain contract, and let's just say it's Ford through your dealer, because most likely it's going to run through a dealer, you're most likely going to have to go through that dealer, even though Sourcewell has a dealer who also has Ford. hopefully I'm not losing myself here, but because they're two different contracts, right? You can also talk to your central procurement and ask them the question saying, Sourcewell has what we need. How do we go about utilizing that specific contract? So I think that's one way to go about it too, because a lot of times what's different about our contracts than some other contracts are you can build the exact vehicle if available and the options are out there that you want. I'm going to give you an example. Every Ford option is available on any of the electric vehicles. We don't limit that. Whatever Ford offers is the Ford vehicle you can build. So going back to that, I'd have to get some more information on that to see, if you're mandated to use a specific contract or a specific way, which may be your state contract. That's why I mention it. That might be the way you need to go. But also reach out to us because your agency might be utilizing other Sourcewell contracts, and that might help provide some additional information to your procurement.
Thanks, Mike. One last one we may have a straight answer to, maybe not. Through Sourcewell and through driveevfleets.org, EVs can be offered at a lower rate because of group purchasing. Do you have an estimate for how much lower the cost would be procuring through this program as opposed to purchasing directly from a dealer?
That's a really good question. If we went back prior to 5 years ago, I probably could give you a better answer. But one of the things I wanted to step back because, excuse me, that is a really good question. In the government world, a lot of those dealers are going to have vehicles on their lots right now. They might not be offering you government pricing on those vehicles. Through the Sourcewell contract, you are getting their government pricing that they responded to us with. Most of the time, it's going to be less. Now, if you're going to use your state contract versus a Sourcewell contract, those are two distinct different contracts or another cooperative contract. Those are all going to probably have different pricing or variation of different pricing. I really don't have, I can come up with a percentage, but there's usually on the Sourcewell contracts for vehicles, there's usually a range of percentage off that they have. It all depends on the type of vehicle, right? And how popular the vehicle is. And that's because, excuse me, the OEMs and manufacturers extend those government discounts out to the dealers. So that's an awesome question. We get it quite a bit saying, Sourcewell, are you guaranteed the lowest price? And we would say every time to you, absolutely not. Nobody should guarantee you the lowest price because a dealer across the country could come and say, I want to get rid of 2 of those. I'll sell them to you for cheaper. Were you just guaranteed the lowest price? I don't think so. It's competitive pricing, right? It's went through that process for you to be able to buy through a cooperative contract and most likely get exactly the electric vehicle you're looking for. So that I'm trying to come up in my mind with like an average percentage off, and I would really have to do some research on that because there's so many different types of vehicles out there. Your medium duty versus school buses versus your traditional, SUVs, vans, electric.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's really hard to put a pin on a specific percentage given all sorts of different options, but it does make it significantly less stressful trying to get a solid price on an electric vehicle for a public use. So we definitely encourage folks to use Sourcewell and driveevfleets.org. Noticing time, we have a couple slides left. But next steps for folks to look into after this webinar, thank you all for joining. Check out the website to browse vehicles and infrastructure options, resources as well. Next, talk to Sourcewell and Electrification Coalition fleet experts about the guidance and support you need. And contact us if you would like to participate in a fleet electrification case study. We have a number of different contact forms for you there. Mike's email is on driveevfleets.org as well, but you can email me. You can email our address for the dashboard for rapid vehicle electrification, and you can also email evfleets@electrificationcoalition.org for questions. But want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for your time and looking forward to working with you all on driveevfleets.org. Thanks again.